every life lesson that I've ever learned has been through the game.
Yeah.
And so my goal now is to use the game of basketball and sports in general to try and teach life lessons that are going to help the lives of young men so that they can reach their potential and be the best that they can be.
What is up, everybody? This is Miles Mastrocola here with the HoopState Network at the HoopState HQ, and we have another HoopState special for you. New Burlington School head coach and athletic director George Marshall. George, first off, when I say that you're now at the Burlington School, how does that feel?
It's amazing. It's indescribable, really, because I said this to you before, you've probably only seen me in navy and gray. And so to be at the Burlington School and to have the support of their administration and for it to be a seamless transition from Ryan, it's been awesome. I'm really excited.
Definitely. So you mentioned, obviously, navy and gray. Henderson Collegiate obviously has meant a lot to you over the last few years with you being the head coach there. Kind of took that program to an unprecedented place, really. What does it mean kind of leaving that behind, and how excited are you now for this next chapter?
Yeah, I mean, you know, since this is connected to college hoops kind of, but like since Coach K has retired, a million different quotes of his are coming up all over the internet and on Twitter.
For sure.
The one that I've read recently that I really like is that players make coaches. And so for me, the biggest thing that I would attribute any success to that I had at Henderson Collegiate was all about the players.
Yeah.
And you know, not just players like Javante and Caleb and AK, and those guys get a lot of publicity, and rightfully so, because they're playing in college, they're doing really, really well there. But when you think about like meaningful role players, whether that be a Chris Franklin or Jaquavion, Josh A. Hart, Mekhi Lewis, Devon Allen, these guys just mean so much to me outside of basketball. And so it's really difficult to say goodbye to a place like that. My whole professional life, all I've known is Henderson Collegiate. So 11 years, a third of my life has been there. But it was time for a new challenge, and I'm really excited for that to be at TBS. Going
back before Henderson Collegiate, kind of what shaped you into the basketball man that you are today? What kind of playing experience did you have in college and high school that, you know, our viewers may not know about, because you're not originally from North Carolina?
So when I was growing up...
Where are you originally from?
So I was born in Durham.
Oh, really?
I was, yeah. Born in Durham. My dad was a professor at Duke. And so as a professor, we kind of bounced around all over the place when I was younger. So I actually lived in like 6 different houses before I graduated. I graduated from high school in Washington, D.C., and I went to Sidwell Friends School, which is now known for having Kiki Rice and an amazing boys basketball program. But before any of that existed, I went to Sidwell Friends School. And I was blessed to have a really great head coach there named Dwayne Simpkins, who's now an assistant coach at George Mason. He was a McDonald's All-American, played and started at DeMatha for 4 years and lost 1 game. And I thought I was so smart that I didn't have to listen to his advice for how to play in college. So I had a bunch of options to play at the Division III level. Didn't even visit the schools. Ended up going to Penn State, which was really great for my family because they lived in Pennsylvania, but just assumed like a moron that I would walk on, not knowing what that actually entailed. And that obviously didn't work. And so you go through this whole thing of like, do I want to play in college, don't I? And I was able to find a lot of passion and love for it by starting the club basketball program there. And that was a lot of fun because you didn't have to practice as much. You could go to different campuses. You could go out and hang out with people you know.
It's like a light college basketball
Oh, my goodness. Super light.
Yeah.
But our team was really good because there's 40,000 people at Penn State.
Yeah. If you go to a lot of these high majors, like if you ever go to like an NC State club event, like I've been, it's pretty good basketball.
We actually, before I got down to North Carolina, we went to the Nationals at NC State. And so that was a huge event. It's like, we like to say like, hey, if there's a low-end D3, we might could take them. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of attitude. But it was so much fun. I mean, it just helped you appreciate the game. Came to North Carolina, and I was a Teach for America Corps member. And so in 2011, I got placed at Henderson Collegiate. Eric and Curry Sanchez founded the school, and they hired me as a PE and inclusion teacher, which ironically was also my role this past year. So imagine going like 11 years in a full circle and then coming back. But sports really didn't start there until like year 3 for me, and that was in middle school. And so what was exciting about our journey is that I've seen the whole trajectory.
Yep, from start,
Literally
from,
from
now,
dirt, where we started in our first season. We had just 7th graders and 6th graders. We played 3 games. We were wearing t-shirts with numbers on the back, black shorts because we thought that was the uniform, and required black shoes, which was part of their school uniform.
Yep.
We lost every game by 30 plus.
Yeah.
Every single game. It was really ugly.
And this was what, like 2014?
I can't even tell. I guess, yeah, it was 2014.
Jeez.
But then the next year comes and we get into a conference in middle school. We win 4 games. The year after that, we win 5 games. Then we start really picking it up with our 2021 graduating class. And I know I mentioned players before, but so much of our success as a school with basketball is attributed to them. And whether that was guys that came freshman year like Vontae or Devon, Josh A., or whether it was guys who are with us from middle school like AK, Jaquavion, Chris, Caleb Royster, those are all middle school guys. We had them in 7th grade.
They're just Henderson Collegiate lifers.
Yes, literally lifers. Omaj Evans is another kid like that who contributed when he was a senior. But when we were in that season, we won 12 games. And then it was like, oh, like maybe we can turn this into something. Next year, we start varsity sports at the school. That was a totally different beast.
Yep.
So we are going to events, and I remember we won our first game at home. We won a couple games here and there, and I was like, oh, like this isn't that bad because you don't know anything. And then we played a team, Rocky Mount Prep, and it was that year they were really good.
I'll say when I was in high school, because this is probably right after I left.
Yes.
I graduated in 15, so this is probably like, what, 2017-ish?
Yes, right around there.
So Rocky Mount Prep was always kind of that team in that central eastern part of the state that you had to go through.
Yes.
And y'all had to go through that.
Mercy ruled.
Yeah.
Destroyed.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the opening moment where you're like, oh crap, like we got to buckle down here. But what the amazing part of that story is that when we were playing with those guys, we started 4 freshmen on varsity the second half of the season. Devon Allen, Javante Waverly, Jaquavion Venable, Kairos Holden, and Makai Lewis was the lone junior. And we just started to play faster, and we won a ton of games, put Vontae at the point, and he found his natural position.
Yep. And we all saw what that turned out to be.
For sure, for sure. And after that, it just really took off. You know, we're 14-14 that season, added a couple transfers the next year, and Caleb Matthews and Cameron Brooks took our defense to a whole nother level. But I think one of the most important statement wins for us was we were playing Ravenscroft at Ravenscroft the first game of that season, and no one knew what to expect from us. Won by 20 in front of their home crowd. Caleb Matthews was fantastic. Vontae was doing his thing. AK caught his first body that game. It was awesome, man. And then fast forward, you know, we lose in the state championship that year, but just learned so much. The year after that, we win the state championship, and I don't have a problem saying this here, and I'd say it to anybody. If we play in Reynolds that year, we're winning the game. Caleb Matthews was on a mission. That whole starting 5 was so good defensively. I mean, in the Final 4 game against North Edgecombe, we held a team who averaged 80 to 48 points.
Yeah.
So whatever was coming our way, we were going to be confident and ready for, and everyone was committed to their roles, which was great. And then, you know, the next couple of years we lost to Wilson Prep when they had a fantastic team in 2021 with seniors. This past year we dropped one to Kip that I felt like we could have won, but hats off to them for finishing the job. But, I mean, our whole, like, for me, everything has been basketball.
Yeah.
I was not a great student in high school, much to the chagrin of my parents.
Yeah.
Every life lesson that I've ever learned has been through the game.
Yeah.
And so my goal now is to use the game of basketball and sports in general to try and teach life lessons that are going to help the lives of young men so that they can reach their potential and be the best that they can be.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember kind of going back to where, especially Javante's junior and senior year, where you guys were kind of willing to play anybody. You guys came down to Rock Hill and played the Burlington School. You guys would play Liberty Heights. You would play Combine. You would play Moravian. Because I remember you said, look, our conference isn't great. We have to prepare ourselves. So you kind of played, maybe not quite a national schedule, but definitely you played some of the regional powers. And now you're going to the Burlington School where the competition level's raises significantly.
Absolutely.
The level of player you're going to be coaching from top to bottom is likely going to raise significantly. What are you looking forward to kind of within yourself about that challenge ahead?
Well, what my high school coach did, which I valued so much, was he would always play us against elite out-of-conference competition.
Yeah.
So when we were at Sidwell Friends, which was in the MAC at the time, we would play Bishop McNamara, who would play in DeMatha's conference. We would play Coolidge, who had Thomas Robinson, who went on to star at Kansas. I mean, we've done all that. So for me, the only way that you can really learn the most about yourself is through playing elite competition. When we went to Moravian, or when we went to the Carmel Christian Classic, and we played Moravian Prep and lost by 4, there's not a single person in that gym who didn't know who we were, who didn't know what our program was about and our culture, and who didn't think that we were going to win a state championship. And that's the goal. And sometimes you're going to have to lose games like that to earn that respect. But it's so important because you learn so much about yourself. I mean, Javante was going up against Shaq. And they went head to head for a while.
No,
now,
they
Shaq
did.
did his thing. Like, he was a man that game. But I mean, those type of experiences, you can't trade that for the world.
No, I remember when y'all played Combine a few weeks later that Jeff was like, "Who's this Caleb Matthews kid?" Because he was starting to make shots. But
I don't like that game as much.
That was a little more than 4.
Yeah, a little more than 4.
A little more than
That's
4.
That's the kindest way you could possibly say that.
But now looking now, like, so why TBS?
Well, I think that first and foremost, the opportunities there are incredible. I do think it's important for people to know that the amazing work that Ryan and his staff did. Because it's not glamorous. You know, when you go into TBS, and I'll continue to say this, you know, the facilities aren't perfect. They have a long-term plan for a great facility, and they've been very public about that. I'm really excited to be in that process with Mr. Wall and the other administrators involved. But
they've made that a priority to make sure their facility is.
But it is about grit and hard work there. And so the reason that I love it so much is that is directly aligned to what we experienced at Henderson Collegiate. You know, I like to tell people this. When we used to practice at Henderson Collegiate, we played in this old gym that was like a subset of the rec center where we play our home games.
Or you'd practice in the cafeteria.
Right.
With ribs.
Well, the cafeteria was way nicer than this gym. So we go into this gym, right, and it's like chain lock doors, which is fine because it's a public place. But when you walk in, broken windows, the floor is like an ice rink. It's like, I said this to the head of school at TBS, and I said, it's like the Space Jam gym before the Spit Shine. Like, that's literally where we were playing. I'm not saying that TBS is like that, because it 100% is not. Like, you can host home games, you can pack that place in, you can make sure that that environment is elite. And with how crazy the baseball team is there, I expect it to be elite and sold out whenever we have home games. But the difference is you can host home games. And on campus, we weren't capable of doing that at Henderson Collegiate. The local rec center was awesome because that provided tons of seating and was really beneficial for us, our partnership with them in Henderson. But to be able to do that on campus is just a different feeling.
It's a luxury that I don't think many coaches around the state realize that they have.
100%. And when I walked into that gym, to me, I think sometimes if you've been at a 4A school or you've been at, you know, some of these elite private schools with amazing facilities, and you walk in there, it might seem like, oh, what is this? To me, it's like, I have 6 baskets. Like, oh, I have, you know, access to this whenever I need to have it. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Plus, the talent in the 336 is incredible. You guys have known that forever. You know, it's going to be a really exciting time, man. I'm excited because the standards don't change. I believe that my standards and Ryan's standards are very similar, and I believe that the staff's standards will be very similar. It's going to look a little different. I mean, I talk a lot, and, you know, when I talk to people about the job, I have a wife and 2 kids. You know, Ryan sat on this couch and made a joke about how it was his choice to be single. Those are 2 totally different lifestyles. But our commitment to the game and our belief in what it can do for kids is the same, and I'm really excited for that.
So have you talked to him at all, kind of since you found out you'd be the new head coach?
Pretty much every day we talk. He's been such a valuable resource in navigating TBS as a school, and also just as a friend, and saying how proud he was of me being able to get this opportunity. You know, when he first called me about it coming available, I was kind of dead set on what my plans were for next year. But I mean, we all know that based on the reputation of the Burlington school now, it's not something that you can just pass up. I was really excited about it once it happened, and I'm very blessed that it worked out in my favor.
Yeah, have you had the conversation yet with your former players that you won't be returning, and if so, what was that conversation like?
Really tough.
Yeah.
Mostly because you're poured 11 years into one place, and that's very rare. And so I don't think it's ever easy to have a conversation about change, but I feel really good about the plan that we have in place moving forward. Their summer schedule is set. I think that's so important, right?
Yeah.
Like some level of
Stability.
Oh, yeah, this will be normal.
Yeah.
It'll be what we're used to. And the fact that they'll get back into things later this month and then into June, I think will really help them a lot. It's going to be a talented group. I mean, I expect that group to still compete for conference championships and make a push in the playoffs. But what I told them is, you know, this is a lifelong thing. And I think sometimes, like, anytime we experience success in any field, you always are going to be guilty of losing sight of the most important thing and the most important aspect of your life, which is your relationships. And so for me, I admitted this to my teams many times when we were going on those deep runs into the state playoffs. Sometimes it's tough because you're so focused on the next win, as opposed to let's just sit back and like appreciate each
Enjoy
other.
this,
Yeah. And so I think that for me, that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and it's one of the biggest things that I talked to them about, which was this is about us. You know, I want to go to your weddings. I want to be there, you know, when you need advice about relationships or about when you have kids. I want to be there when you make big life decisions about your career, and I want to be there when you graduate from high school and from college. And so this is all stuff that I think I'll get better at, and I'm excited to get better at. But sometimes you have to do it poorly to learn. And there have definitely been times where I've had to reflect on it. But I think that it's going to be great moving forward. And while it's upsetting, they understand.
Yeah.
You know, that conversation is tough, but they understood the rationale.
Definitely. So now you're the head coach of the Burlington school. What is kind of your immediate course of action for the next, I don't know, say until June, at least for the month of May? What are you kind of looking at accomplishing?
May got busy real fast.
Yes, it did.
And so I think that the first and foremost thing that I wanted to do is talk to the returning players and parents. I've had great conversations with families, absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited for them to be a part of this journey with me. But, you know, one of the things that I was really blessed with at Henderson Collegiate is I got to coach with my closest friends.
Yeah.
So one of them was a groomsman at my wedding. The other one is now one of my best friends. And so I never had to worry about a coaching staff because it was just like, bros, are we doing this? Or like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And that added to the experience and it helped kids a ton. But now, you know, it's a little different in the private school level. And so I reached out to some people and started to build the staff the way that I think is going to be most beneficial to the team. And I'm really excited about that. One of my big goals, you guys know this having followed Farmville Central and schools that are great like that, is every single year at every single level, there is an expectation, and it's all aligned to one thing. And
it's putting a ring on the finger.
100%. And I think that while that is going to look different at the private school level, I think that it is still possible at the private school level. And I think that that's important because, say, you know, transfers now, we can talk what we want to about the portal. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in AAU, it's in high school, it's probably in middle school. I don't really know. I'm not as involved at that level. But, you know, now you're at a place where, like, if you can get 3 kids in middle school who can really develop and then go to JV and be great, then and you're talking about great players at the varsity level. And I really believe that there's power in that. But the reality, too, is you have to be able to accept transfers regardless of where you are. And getting the right kids and the right families into our school committed to the academic way of TBS is going to be first and foremost priority. So, you know, the upcoming stuff is really all about showing support to the current guys. What I'm most excited about is going Saturday to the NC battle or the battle for NC.
Yep.
And sitting courtside at their games wearing TBS attire.
Yeah.
And I want them to see me there. And I want to talk to them. And I want them to see that this is bigger than just you being at TBS. This is about your overall well-being as a person and player. I'm excited, man. It's really going to be fun.
I could hear it. So, yeah, I think that's about it for now. Any final words about the program? Also, real quick, you're the athletic director, too.
I am.
How does that feel to kind of have that? And obviously, you already mentioned baseball, but all the other sports. I know they've had a really successful women's program.
Yes.
And just being able to kind of, not only with the basketball program, but take everything else to another level as well.
Well, I think that as the AD, what I really like about it is there's this level of trust that exists within the school. That makes the position permanent and really stand out. And so for me, the responsibility with that is not something that's like falling on deaf ears. Like I'm very ready to be a solid AD there. And I'm really excited because this is going to be an interesting time where there's other sports that are truly elite. We had great soccer programs at Henderson Collegiate. We had a great history with track and field. Like the baseball team at TBS is the real deal. I mean, their senior night this past year, I don't know if people are aware of this. For one, they have a kid committed to Maryland. They have another player committed to Arkansas. There were 12 major league scouts at their senior night.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then when you tie in the fact that the girls program just won the state championship, I mean, the possibilities.
It's an elite athletic program.
Absolutely. And I think that it can be elite at every single sport or with every single sport. And I think that people are going to be committed to that. I'm really excited to work with those. Baseball is always one of my favorite sports to attend. I know that people don't always say that when they watch it on TV, but there's just something about that environment.
No, going to a game is completely different.
Totally different. Definitely. I'm really excited.
I bet. So, George, congratulations on the new gig. Like I said, Miles Massacola here with the HoopState Network. We appreciate y'all tuning in. George, best of luck.
Appreciate it, my man.
No doubt.
Thank you.
No doubt.